Okay, y'all, let's get rolling. I'm so excited. I woke up dancing this morning. I had to have a lot of energy to uh, just express myself. So, yeah, we had a dance party this morning. That was me, myself, and I. Okay, so um, I want to welcome everybody here, middle of the day. How to get that man to listen. So I am so eager to share with you this powerful framework and the 4 steps. These are 4 steps for closer connection. And I'd like you to pop a yes in the chat if you are peeking with curiosity. Now, before we get started, I want you to understand this is an experiential exercise. I sent out a Jumpstart video to give you an opportunity to bring your own difficult conversation that you wanted to work with this framework. So pen and paper is very handy. Get comfortable. And we are only going to have the chat feature opened until the end. And then we will just open up the audio for Q&A. And I really, really look forward to your takeaways, what you're learning, what you may have questions about. But until then, you will have access to the chat. Robin, wave, Robin. Okay, Robin is my wing woman today. She's managing the chat as well as managing the security of the room. So for your ease and possibly the best way to view this masterclass today is to put me on speaker view, because I will be going between slides and making my most impact through the speaker view. So if you go up to the right hand top part of your screen, you will see view, and you can click on speaker view. And that way it'll give you a little more impact. At least I think so. That's my assumption. Okay, let me take a deep breath because I have so much energy running through my body right now. I am targeting today with my questions to women 60 and over. If you were not in that age range, never fear. You are welcome. You will learn just as much, and you will be able to use this framework with any relationship. But right now, today, I'm talking to women 60 and above who are either entering a retirement phase or planning various aspects of this next phase in their life. Now, why did I choose this target group? Because I am a member of this target group, and I never realized how much transition there is during this phase of my life. So I thought, we really, really need to be talking to our men and opening up some difficult conversations. So I'm going to ask you some questions. Do you fear being overwhelmed by home maintenance projects, by household responsibilities? And is it time to expand your conversation with your partner around home maintenance and domestic help resources? Do you have a fear of emotional loneliness and the absence of mutual emotional support? Once we leave the work world, oftentimes we're surprised at our own emotional loneliness. So is it time to talk about expanding your community support? Do you have concerns about family conflicts and the emotional difficulty of dealing with an estranged family member? I think everybody has one estranged family member. By the time you hit this season in your life, you go, oh, I think this family member is in the will, or I think I have some obligation to this family member. So what I'm asking you today, is it time to make amends with that family member? Is it time to have that difficult conversation? And is it time to really listen? And do you even know how to listen? Are you worried about your partner getting upset? This is a big one. Are you worried about your partner getting upset when you bring up sensitive topics? Do you need to have that difficult conversation around changes in your sexual health, changes in your physical health, or even your mental and emotional health? Do you need to open up that conversation about your worry with finances now that you're retired or phasing into this new phase? Okay, these are the 4 steps. I'm going to go through each one with a little description, and I'm going to use my own life woven through these 4 steps. So I want you to hang with me until the end, because I think you will be able to assimilate the value of this particular relational framework. So how many of you have a very difficult conversation that keeps swirling in the back of your mind? Like, how do I get that man to listen? Now, I know for myself, I used to have lots of difficult conversations swirling. Not anymore. I take care of it. And I've found this framework to be highly effective. So let me see. I've got you on gallery mode, everybody. Let me see a show of hands. Who's ready to dive in? Saul, you're ready to dive in. Okay, he's got both hands up. And it is nice to have a man in the room. So thank you for your support, Saul. So pop a yes in the chat. Okay, Robin's ready. Saul, you're ready. Sandra, I think you're ready. All right. I want to share. Oh, Tony, you're ready. I want to share a personal story. Today, I am the most grateful woman I know. I used this framework. I've been using it for several years now. And I'm launching my For Closer Connection program. And this, what you're going to experience today, is just a little hors d'oeuvre. But if it wasn't for this framework, I wouldn't be here today. I lost my husband 2 years ago this past July. And if it wasn't for this framework, I would be grieving in regret. Let me tell you what happened. It was July 10th, 2022, 2 days before Jim's outpatient surgery. Now, Jim was health conscious, exercise conscious. He was kind, even-tempered, very methodical. I used to say, Jim operates at medium speed and can get more done in one day than I can get done in a month. He was just that kind of guy. There wasn't anything he couldn't do. He cooked, he landscaped, he built furniture, he was a teacher, he was an astute student of American history. He exercised. He was very healthy with food, and he even did my laundry the right way. So to say I was spoiled is an understatement. I was the grand royal kitten in Jim's life. And he took care of everything, all the domestic stuff, all the financial stuff. I had the dream life. And Jim was retired during the years that we were married. And I was 7 months post-retirement. I had just retired. We were in the beginning of the early part of my retirement. Our kids were launched successfully. Our parents had passed on. Our careers ended successfully. And we had a dream life ahead of us. Now, Jim had a history of heart issues. They were effectively managed for years. He didn't have any other issues. However, in the summer of 2022, 2 years ago, his cardiologist recommended a high-risk procedure. Now, this is known as stenting. It's popular, it's common, it's outpatient surgery. The risk of death is very low. It's 1 in 1,000. He was an excellent candidate because otherwise he was so very healthy. So we were preparing to leave Blue Ridge, which is the mountains, and we would be driving to Atlanta. So we were positive and we were hopeful. However, this particular day, Jim was sulking. And when Jim sulked, he was a big man. When he sulked, you could hear it. His feet kind of sliding across the floor. He was irritable. He was frowning. He wasn't talking. He was emotionally isolating, and he wasn't engaging with me. And I noticed he was in the kitchen chopping carrots. He was chopping the carrots so hard. It was with the strength that he used when he chopped. He would split the logs outside for our fire pit. So it was very aggressive. And all of a sudden, that big giant cutting knife, he threw it into the stainless steel sink. And to say throw seems like an understatement. He slammed it into the stainless steel sink. And then right behind it went the cutting board. Now, that was a cue for me to be prepared to have a difficult conversation. And I'm going to show you how I use this 4-step process to open up a difficult conversation with him. And I'm going to share how he responded at the end. So I want you to hang on, because I believe you will find value in his response. It was a response I didn't expect, but nonetheless, I'm grateful for this framework. Now, folks, it wasn't always this way. I'm a communication specialist. I'm a retired speech pathologist. I have 39 years of professional experience in the field of communication. I have been in leadership in a marriage ministry. I have mentored women for decades, and even some men, with communicating with their partners. So, when I found this framework, it did a big shift in me. Because Jim was probably the most difficult and challenging person to communicate with. Just the sheer evidence that it was a romantic relationship seemed to put a different spin on it. Now, in the spring of 2018, we're in Blue Ridge Mountains. We're expecting a spring storm. It was not unusual. We got lots of aftermath from tropical storms along the coast. So Jim and I were a good partnership. We did the milk and bread run. We secured the outdoor furniture. We even got the batteries. We gassed up the car. We were storm prep ready. Came into our house to hunker down, and I see a bird feeder. And I said, Jim, we need to take the bird feeder down. And Jim looked at me and said, no. And I said, yes, we need to take the bird feeder down. It's going to get blown around in the storm. We need to take it down. And he said, no. No explanation, very stoic, a man of few words. But being the expert communicator I am, I exploded into a Waguespack attack. And yes, I own that name. I own that German DNA. That's my maiden name. And World War III. Now, he wasn't a fighter. He just stonewalled. He went into the room, he closed the door, and I sat there face to face with the bird feeder. I went to my overstuffed chair and I ruminated. How could I be with this man? And over all the ways he was wrong about not going to get that bird feeder. Now, ladies, you absolutely know I could have gone out there. I could have taken it down. It wasn't anything heavy or difficult. But I also knew I would be seething in resentment. And I sat in that overstuffed chair, and it was right then and there. I knew I had to try something different. How to get that man to listen. How to reconnect. Because that argument, that interaction, that reactivity was the fraying of an otherwise healthy marriage. And I knew I could not afford to lose this marriage. So I embarked on the journey of self-discovery, looking more closely at my own inner healing, looking at other ways to communicate. I was raised in the 70s. I came up through the women's lib, and we were powerful and we were assertive with our communication, and spent my adult life in the field of communication. But what I didn't know how to do was be relational about it, and I didn't know how to listen. So that journey has brought me here today, and I am going to share with you this framework. So let's see. Okay, step one. I noticed that. Now, I noticed that this step is the seed bed of curiosity. Let me say that again. It's the seed bed of curiosity. This step, I notice that, is the underpinning of this relational framework. Now, noticing, what does it do? It distances you from the issue at hand. And all of us have learned to say, when you do such and such, I feel. And sometimes that works. And sometimes your communication partner gets a little bit edgy. So if you soften it with I notice that, I think you'll find a better result. Now, what I want you to do is practice this. All the microphones are muted, because I've had people say, why do we have to use so many words? I notice that. I just tell them what to do. But it never works. And that's why those women will gravitate toward me. So what I want you to do is to practice with our microphones muted. And I'm watching your lips. So Robin, Saul, those of you with your cameras on, I want you to listen to yourself saying, I noticed that. So in all manner of inflection, I noticed that. Oh, I noticed that. Oh, I noticed that. Okay, so with Jim, it went something like this. I noticed that when you threw the knife into the sink and you were aggressively chopping the carrots. Simple enough to get started. Let's see. Okay, the second step, who's ready for this? Second step, I feel. Okay, I feel. Those are the most wonderfully confusing words, right? This step is the most complex of the steps. And again, you're not alone. I'm here to support you in learning this skill. So what I want you to do is just take a small snapshot of this skill, just in your body, no judgment, just noticing. With feelings, oftentimes we don't know what they are. We're stuck in our heads, but we don't focus on our body. So for right now, I want you to close your eyes or use a soft gaze. This is just a little sampling. Focus in on your body. What do you feel in your physical body right now in this moment? Do you feel tension? Maybe in your right thigh? Do you feel a sensation of cool air blowing across your feet? Maybe your breathing patterns. Some are deep, some are slow. Maybe you have the sensation of saliva on the side of your lips. Are you feeling the sweat in your armpits? Okay, what I'd like you to do now is pop it in the chat. What did you experience? You can, what I was experiencing was my toes. Until I focused on it, I'm wearing sandals. I didn't realize that my toes were cold. Okay, Robin, tightness in your chest. Anybody else want to share? Okay, pain in your back shoulder. Right, when you start focusing on your body, sometimes you notice sensations you otherwise hadn't noticed. Now, with Jim, it went something like this. I noticed that when you threw the knife in the sink and you were aggressively chopping the carrots, I felt afraid and tense. My face was tense and my eyes kept watching you like I was waiting for a fire to break out. My whole body was hyper alert. So there you can see, I described to him what I noticed and how my body felt. No assumptions, no judgments, just noticing. Okay, who's ready for step 3? Okay, step 3. Let me just briefly say the first step, I notice that. The second step, I feel. Step 3 is the story I'm telling myself. Now, the story we tell ourselves. This is the most challenging and soul-searching of the steps. Oftentimes we get the story we're telling ourselves confused and we call it feelings. It encompasses our narratives, our judgments, our blames, our assumptions, and even our joyous curiosities. So right now, I want you to take a moment and I want you to reflect on your own story. Now, sometimes we have multiple stories, but reflect on your own story as it relates to your difficult conversation. Just take a few little notes. You don't have to share this publicly. This is for you. What story is spinning in your head? With Jim, it went something like this. I noticed that when you threw the knife in the sink and you were aggressively chopping the carrots, I felt afraid and tense. My face was tense and my eyes kept watching you like I was waiting for a fire to break out. My whole body was hyper alert. The story I'm telling myself is that you're angry at me and maybe you're resentful because you don't want to ask me to help you in the kitchen. Or Maybe you're resentful about having to prepare to leave for 2 days. Or maybe you're afraid you're going to die. Let me take a breath on that one. I want you to hang on until the end because I think you'll find uh, a lot of value in his response. Okay, step 4, the invitation. Now I'm just going to run through these steps again. The first one is I notice that. The second one is I feel. The third one is the story I tell myself. The fourth one is the invitation. This step I have found in my life that totally makes that shift in dropping into relational communication. This step involves preparing context. And this is the step that oftentimes, if you choose to sign up for a free connection call with me, this particular step is oftentimes what we explore. How do you invite your partner in to the conversation? What is it you need to do to prepare the context? It also explores listening. So I'm going to give you 3, and Robin, if you don't mind to type these in the chat. Okay, I'm going to give you 3 tips. These are 3 things I regularly use to invite a communication partner into inviting them into a difficult conversation. I go through those steps and I say, how does that land with you? Or, I would love your perspective of what happened. How does that land with you? I would love your perspective on what happened. And the third one, I like the best. Would you be interested in helping me to understand your perspective? Would you be interested in helping me understand your perspective? I have never, knock on wood, I have never had anyone say no. And why? Because it's become my belief, and I haven't researched it, but I have heard it said. But in my experience, in my belief, is that people really do want to be understood. They want to be heard, and they want to share their perspective. So with Jim, it went something like this. I noticed that when you threw the knife in the sink and you were aggressively chopping the carrots, I felt afraid and tense. And my face was tense. My eyes kept watching you like I was waiting for a fire to break out. And my whole body was hyper alert. The story I'm telling myself is that you're angry at me, and maybe you're resentful that I'm not helping you in the kitchen, or maybe you're resentful about preparing to leave in 2 days. Or maybe you're afraid you're going to die. How is this landing with you? Would you be open to sharing what's happening with you? Now, I will tell you how Jim responded at the end, like I've said before. So hang on, because it affected me and did a really important shift in my life. Okay, quick review. I notice, I feel, the story I'm telling myself, and the invitation. Now, what I would like you to do is share in the chat which one of these steps do you resonate with. Maybe it's something that was new for you. Maybe it's something you're familiar with. Okay, so all of them resonate, except I feel, and all three are powerful to Robin. I think one of the ones that was the most impactful for me is the story. Once I understood the stories I tell myself, I pretty much made a judgment that my intuition is way off. I need to do more listening. Okay, let me share with you a story about one of my clients, Jennifer, 40 years old, married 15 years. Jennifer was a professional, and Jennifer was also married to a professional, but she was feeling very disconnected in her relationship. So Jennifer decided to take a poll, and she polled 8 people, 8 of her closest friends and family. She told them about her issues with her husband, and she asked them, do you think I should stay or leave? Do you think I should stay or leave? Now, 8 people, hands down, said, absolutely, you need to leave. You need to get out of that relationship. Then Jennifer came to me, gave me the same polling questions, same scenario. And I told Jennifer, I said, you're not going to like what I have to say at all. And she got curious. She wanted to know. And I said, I'm going to tell you no. No, you were not ready to leave. And she was shocked. And I told her, you haven't done the work. Because once you do this work, once you understand yourself and understand and finally get a relational communication strategy, you won't ever be able to answer that question yourself. But when you do the work, you will. You won't need to do any more polls, no more sharing with friends and family, no more running around for other people to make your decision. So she took me seriously. She diligently did what it would take for her to make that shift so that she could not only communicate with herself and listen to herself, but she was also making the shift to listening to her partner. And it was through this proven framework. Now, these 4 steps, I will tell you, I had a very dear friend show up on one of my master classes. This year has been a launch for my Closer Connection program. I had a really good friend. She showed up. She took notes. She slapped a text to her husband because she was going to open up a difficult conversation. She called me within minutes and said, well, I tried it. Here's what I sent to him, but it didn't work. So what you're teaching doesn't work. I read the text. It's like, oh, Girl, now you have relationship repair because you didn't do the work behind each of those steps. So I helped her tease it out. What was a feeling from what was the story, from what was blame and judgment, etc. And we crafted together another message for her to text. Now, he did not text back, but when she got home, he had gotten home before her. He was cooking dinner. He was extremely affectionate, and she knew, game on, it works. So, yes, they were able to repair that blip. But hearing Jennifer's story, now I never met Jennifer's husband. I don't even know if he knows I exist. Never met him, never spoke to him, never had any contact with him. But hearing Jennifer's story and seeing how she shifted her communication and her relationship with him, it was that time that I knew I needed to be bringing this to my own hurting sisterhood of women, women in romantic relationships. Now, what's the benefit of this work? Can you even think about how doing this kind of work would benefit you? When you commit to doing the work, the possibilities are endless. You can experience deeper connection. You can experience improved communication, increased intimacy, a stronger, more fulfilling relationship overall. Now, I want to share a little bit and ask you some questions. Did you know that unresolved communication issues erode the stability of a relationship? Now, let me say that again. Did you know that unresolved communication issues erode the stability of our most intimate primary relationships? Now, I would think if I took a poll, you'd say, oh, yes. Unresolved communication issues, right? That's one of the top 5 things of why we get divorced. Communication, we have to communicate better. But ladies, I'm going to challenge you on this. We learned how to communicate, maybe not effectively, but what we didn't learn is how to connect. We didn't learn how to connect, so we keep passing each other. Now, did you know that bids for connection are a statistical predictor of the stability of your relationship? Now, I'm going to challenge you to take data. Take data in your own relationship. What is a bid for connection? You're getting ready to go to the store and you don't ask him if there's anything you can get. Or he comes excited to share this new electronic project he put together, and you're clueless. You don't know nothing about no electronics. And so you go, oh, and you dismiss it in some kind of way, maybe roll your eyes like, oh, here we go again. He reaches for your hand and you pull away, just innocently pull away. You're at a table in a restaurant with friends and he looks at you and tries to be part of the conversation, and you just ignore him. You've missed bids for connection. So if I give you anything today besides this framework, a pro tip is, if you want more stability in your relationship, increase your bids for connection. Because why is it important? If you lack connection, all you have is two things left: loneliness and resentment. That's what's left. And how many of us stay stuck in loneliness and resentment, and we just settle for it? But ladies, it's not our fault. We haven't learned to connect. Now, according to Bruce Music, he's an expert in the science of connection. According to him, our divorce rate is now at 54%. And by the time people seek help, it's often too late. The connection is so eroded. There's too much distance. And by the time people seek help, all they have left to deal with is apathy. One partner is like, no, I'm done. I've tried. I'm not interested. So the investment you make in yourself in your relationship, you can actually reverse this trend. And Jennifer proved that to me. Now, investing in yourself to develop a relational skill set that nurtures your primary intimate partnership is invaluable, and it literally has lifelong benefits. And I'm proof of that. But not only that, I use this relational skill set in all of my relationships, even down to my 8-year-old grandson. Now, how many, and let me go back to the grandson. I spent last weekend with my grandsons. One's 8, one is 10. Their mother had tons of activities for them to do with grandma. They call me Mimsy. And the 10-year-old said, Mimsy, all I want to do is just connect. He just wanted to connect. And I thought, I'm going to share with you what I teach and what I do. And he gave me a great suggestion for another module for my program. But anyway, I digress a bit. I want to ask you, how many difficult conversations do you have in a month, in a year, in a decade? And how many difficult conversations have you not had that you have avoided? So wouldn't an investment in a relational framework be worth it? Now, I am offering a free connection call because it breaks my heart to see women struggle with trying to increase closeness in their relationships. And it breaks my heart to see women frustrated with getting their men to listen, trying to get them to open up, trying to get them to share their feelings. And I've seen firsthand the effect this framework has had in my own life. Now, I will add that this past year, I met 3 men in this 60 plus range. These 3 divorced men, they don't know each other. One was married 30 years, one was married 33 years, one was married 40 years. Neither of those men could tell me why their women left. They didn't know. They didn't know. Clueless. So it makes me curious. Is it that they were losing connection bit by bit, but didn't understand it? And that's why I'm opening up a free connection call for any woman who sees herself with needing to bring and open up a difficult conversation. And I want you to ask yourself, are you ready to take that next step forward to be more connected in your relationship? Now, I'm going to tell you, I know there are 3 groups of you here today. You have the first group. Yes, I'm ready. That's why I'm here. I need to know how to get my man to listen. Then there's the second group. Oh, no, no, no. I don't need this, Laurie. I'm just here to support you. You're so cute. And I really love you. But my relationship's good. Lady, I'm going to tell you to sign up for my free connection call because I want to know what is working for you. And then, y'all, I'm in this third group. There's that third group's my tribe. I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know what this is about. I don't like to sign up for anything. Girl, sign up so we can chat it out. Because if you're like me and you're in that third group, 24 hours later, you're like, oh, I should have just gotten that free session with her. Okay, so I have some ways you can connect with me, certainly by email. All of you have received emails from me. Also, you have received the link to my Facebook and then my calendar. I have, Robin, did you put that in the chat? Okay, Robin's got the link in the chat directly to my calendar, or you can use a QR code. Now, ladies, I know if you were in that 60 plus boomer group, you may not know what a QR code is or how to use it or what a bit.ly is. Like, oh, I don't know what that is. Just put connection call if you don't know how to pull a link or scan a QR code. Just put connection call in the chat and I'll pick it up from there. Now, I'm going to tell you I have limited spots, and I'll tell you why I have limited spots. Because those are client appointment slots. But I've decided to open it up for a few days and give you a chance to just meet with me. Meet with me one-on-one. We go over these steps where you may be having maybe having a challenge, maybe need some coaching around that. And if it looks like it's a good fit, if you think you want to do more work with me, you will also be offered that. But I love getting to know you and I love staying connected with you. So the access to this particular connection call is free. And during that, just like I said, during that connection call, if it feels like a good fit and you want to do further work with me, that's certainly open. Because it's my passion and my commitment in helping you have a deeper connection and emotional intimacy and the fulfillment you desire in your relationship. Now, I'm going to give you just a few more seconds on that, and I'm going to share Jim's response, and then I'm going to open up the Q&A. Okay, Jim's response. When I opened up that difficult conversation, because Jim was struggling, I knew Jim's temperament. I knew the kind of things he would be mad about. But this particular day, I got very curious. I could have easily dismissed him. I could have easily reverted back to my old ways. What are you doing? Why are you chopping the carrots so hard like that? Good grief, calm down. What's wrong with you? I could have reverted back to that. I could have stayed stuck in my fear. Oh no, I don't know. There's something wrong with him. I'm getting out of here. I could have escaped, but I didn't. I stayed curious. And Jim responded to the story I was telling myself. How dare I even bring it up? Are you afraid you're going to die? Now, I was listening intently. I had opened that up. And the story I was telling myself is that he was afraid of death. That's what I thought. What Jim did is he started crying. Now, this is a man I was with for 12 years. I think I saw him tear up one time in that 12 years. And that was regarding making peace with his mother who had passed away. Tear up. But this particular day, July 10th, July 10th, 2022, Jim Hill was crying real tears, gushing. And the reason he was crying is because he was evaluating his life and he didn't think he had done enough. His biggest regret was, I don't have anything to leave my son. I haven't amassed wealth. I don't think my life really counts for that much. Now, Jim's son was in his mid-40s. He was a wealthy man. He didn't need his dad to leave him anything. But it was a value that Jim had. And he used it to measure his worth in his life. Neither of us knew what was soon to be upon us from complications from an outpatient heart procedure. We didn't know that. But I'm here to tell you, this framework pulled us together over the years because I don't think I would have had my partner be able to drop down that deep to share that with me. We would have stayed stuck at lighter levels, maybe with loneliness and resentment. But I was courageous enough to bring that question and to invite him into that conversation. And that's what I got. Now, from that day, all the way through the surgery, all the way through the days he struggled beyond that, we were connected. And I attribute this framework to my success in being able to handle my grief. I have been in 2 grief share groups, 13-week courses for each of them. And hands down, the stories I hear men and women talking about regrets around conversations they didn't have. And there's nothing about Laurie Hill. It's this work that sets me apart, is I knew how to have those difficult conversations. So I'm going to ask you to take a breath with me as we transition to the Q&A. And I want to thank you for joining me here today and for welcoming my my vulnerability. I take it as a gift. Okay, so what we are going to do is open up the Q&A.